they have for me. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. This is Canto 7, Chapter 2, entitled Hiranyakashipu, King of the Demons. And this is text 37. Sri Rama Uvacha Yama Aho Amisham Vyasadikanam Aho Amisham Vyasadikanam Vipajyatam Loka Vidam Vimohatam Loka Vidam Vimoha Yatra Gatas Tatra Gatam Manusham Yatra Gatas Tatra Gatam Manusham Swayam Sadhama Api Suchanti Apatam Swayam Sadhama Api Suchanta Yapatam Vipajyatam Loka Vidam Vimoha Yatra Gatas Tatra Gatam Manusham Swayam Sadama Api Suchantyapatam Shri Amaruvacha Sadama Api Suchantyapatam Shri Amaruvacha Aho Amsham Kanam Aho Amisham Vyasadhikanam Vipashitam Loka Vidam Vimoha Yatragatas Tatragatam Manusham Swayam Sadhama Api Suchantyapata. Ladies. Shri Amaruvacha Aho Amisham Yasadhikanam Pashyatam Loka Vidam Vimoha Yatragatas Tatragatam Manusha Swayam Sadama Api Sochantyapatam Shri Yama Uvacha Shri Yamaraj said, Aho, alas, Amisham of these, vyasa, by age, adhikanam, of those advanced, vipasyatam, seeing every day, lokavidam, the law of nature that everyone dies, vimoha, the bewilderment, yatra, from where, agata, came, tatra, the, gatam, returned, manusham, the man, swayam, themselves, sadama, similar in nature, prone to die, api, although, suchanti, they lament, apartam, uselessly. Translations. Sri Yamaraj said, alas, how amazing it is. These persons who are older than me have full experience. The hundreds and thousands of living entities have taken birth and died. Thus they should understand that they also are apt to die. Yet still they are bewildered. The conditioned soul comes from an unknown place and returns after death to that same unknown place. There is no exception to this rule, which is conducted by material nature. Knowing this, why do they uselessly lament? So responsibly, please. Sri Yamaraj said, alas, how amazing it is. These persons who are older than me have full experience. There are hundreds and thousands of living entities have taken birth and died. Thus they should understand that they are also apt to die. Yet still they are bewildered. The conditioned soul comes from an unknown place and returns after death to that same unknown place. There is no exception to this rule, which is conducted by material nature. Knowing this, why do they uselessly lament? The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 2:28, Avyaktadini bhutani vyakta madhyani bharata avyakta nidanyaiva tatraka paridevana. All created beings are unmanifested in their beginning, manifest in their interim state, and unmanifest again when they are annihilated. So what need is there for lamentation? Accepting that there are two classes of philosophers, one believing in the existence of the soul and the other not believing in its existence, there is no cause for lamentation in either case. Non-believers in the existence ether, air is generated. From air, fire is generated. From fire, water is generated. And from water, earth becomes manifested. From the earth, many varieties of manifestations take place. For example, a big skyscraper is manifested from the earth. When it is dismantled, the manifestation becomes again unmanifested and remains as atoms in the ultimate stage. The law of conservation of energy remains. But in the course of time, things are manifested and unmanifested. That is the difference. Then what cause is there for lamentation in either manifestation or unmanifestation? Somehow or other, even in the unmanifested stage, things are not lost. Both at the beginning and at the end, all elements remain unmanifested, and this does not make any real material difference. If we accept the Vedic conclusion, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, at antavanta eme deha, that these material bodies are perishable in due course of time, nityas yokta sharina. But the soul is eternal, then we must remember always that the body is like a dress. Therefore, why lament the changing of a dress? The material body has no factual existence in relation to the eternal soul. It is something like a dream. In a dream, we may think of flying in the sky or sitting on a chariot as a king. But when we wake up, we can see that we are neither in the sky nor seated on the chariot. The Vedic wisdom encourages self-realization on the basis of the non-existence of the material body. Therefore, in either case, whether one believes in the existence of the soul or one does not believe in the existence of the soul, there is no cause for lamentation for loss of the body. In the Mahabharata, it is said, Adarshanad iha yata punas chidarshanam gata. This statement could support the theory of the atheistic scientist that the child in the womb of the mother has no life, but is simply a lump of matter. To follow this theory, if the lump of matter is aborted by a surgical operation, no life is killed. The body of a child is like a tumor, and if a tumor is operated upon and thrown away, no sin is involved. The same argument could be put forward in regard to the king and his queens. The body of the king was manifested from an unmanifested source, and again it became unmanifested from manifestation. Since the manifestation exists only in the middle, between the 2 points of unmanifestation, why should one cry for the body manifested in the interim? Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu-Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhattarinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Yamaraj has taken the form of a boy because it's easier sometimes to take philosophy from a young kid rather than somebody that's the same age, because ego is involved otherwise. If a little kid says it, you can accept it a little easier. But if it's somebody your same age or even older, then the ego gets involved. If the ego gets involved, then we lose clarity. We start losing what is right and what is wrong. There's actually a book recommended by Vaisheshika Prabhu. It's called How to Win an Argument. And one of the chapters is called What Are We Arguing About? So during the course of the argument, the egos start getting involved. And then people start calling each other fat, pigs, and then everyone starts forgetting what the argument was about in the first place. So Yamaraj has come in the form of a young boy so that the egos don't get ruffled, and then he says, look, you're older than me, and you've seen hundreds and thousands of people come and go. Why are you so upset about this person dying? So and you could say, well, I'm upset because, it's not a nice thing, dying, but then you should be upset all the time because that's what's happening. There's so many people every day that are dying, so every day you should be upset. So the other day, my dad was on the phone. He's in his early 80s, and he knows, time is running out. And so I was saying to him, well, don't worry, Dad, because either you are the soul, and when you die, you'll carry on, or you're not a soul, you're a body, and when you die, then you won't know anything anyway, so nothing to worry about. But then it went quiet for quite a while, actually. My dad didn't say anything. So I'm not quite sure why that was, other than that it's uncomfortable maybe to have to try and deal with it. It's compared to a fish in a shallow pool on a mountainside, because every day the sun is shining and the pool is getting a little bit shallower. Eventually the fish is just kind of trying to stay alive, and there's hardly any water left. So that's material life, unfortunately. The fish could be thinking, well, maybe I should try to understand that I need to do something here. Or the fish could get like an underwater TV and some really far out cigars that you can smoke underwater and just chill out, and just accept that that's just the way it is. So generally what people are doing with sense gratification is they're distracting themselves from the ultimate issue, which is you're going to die, and do you know what's going to happen to you? And so Srila Prabhupada was like that boy that stood up and said the king is naked, because the king had a far out, he thought he had a far out outfit on, And the tailor had told them, it's so fine that only the most intelligent can see it. And then they said, what do you think? And the king was looking, and all he could see was his naked body. But then if he'd have said that, it would have looked like he wasn't intelligent enough to see the clothes. So he said, oh, yeah, they're amazing. Yeah. And then everyone that came in said, oh, Your Majesty, that's an amazing pair of, what is it again? A pair of what? A pair of, are they flares? Or anyway, whatever they are, they're amazing. And then he went out in public, and everyone had passed the word around. The king's wearing these far-out clothes, but only the intelligent can see them. So everyone was like, wow, amazing. And this one boy stood up and said, the king is naked. And then everyone burst out laughing. Srila Prabhupada stood up and said, everyone is miserable. No one's prepared for death. And everyone was like, he's right. Why are we pretending? So that's what people do anyway. They lapse into distraction and divert themselves. Evade the issue. Let's evade the issue. It's a game everyone can play. The whole family. Yes, it's evade the issue time. So there's lots of things you can do. We were in somebody's house in Hull the other week, and they've got these things, you put them on your head when you look around. It looks like you're in you've got these swords, you can chop things. So that's really evading the issue. It's like we're already in illusion. Now we're going to go into a multi-layered illusion, an illusion inside an illusion. And reality is realization. It's actually that's really what realization means. Realization means coming in contact with reality. So somebody could say, well, the mirage looks real. It's in the desert, okay. But it looks, look at it, it looks very, very nice. It looks like some water. And nobody will deny that the appearance of water is very attractive. But although the illusion is very attractive, it doesn't, when you go there, there's no water. So when you go to the opposite sex, or your cuddly dog, or whatever it is that floats your boat, it's only giving you the appearance of giving you the pleasure, but it's not actually giving you the pleasure. To find that pleasure, that eternal, blissful pleasure, is something we can only find in the spiritual world. But that's good. If you see the mirage, you think, well, there's definitely water, but I just now need to find where the water is, that's all. So we're looking for love, we're looking for eternal life, we're looking for bliss. So some people will give up and say, well, it's just not, it doesn't exist. So just settle for what it is, this is what life is. It's pretty crummy. Life's not so good, and at the end you die. Let's just make the most of it. So you could do that also. You could compromise and just settle for that. Or you could be a hero and say, nope, it's definitely there, and I'm going to find it one way or the other. We certainly have the means now to do that. And we have so much information, clear information in the Bhagavatam. So whether you're an atheist or whether you're a theist, in either case, there's no point in worrying. So worrying about things is of no use. There's a song, isn't it, by Protoplasmic Crud. Do you know it? Mangalananda. And although we're told we're just chemicals, they're chemicals. Oh yeah, although still we have to hurry. And although we're just chemicals, they're chemicals still worry. So if we were just chemicals, and that's actually what they're thinking, well, we're just chemicals, and I'm worrying, so I'll tell you what, put this in. Wow, I'm not worrying anymore. Problem is when the chemical wears off, then whatever the problem was we were worrying about still remains, but now it's compounded by the fact that you're coming down off an artificial high. So instead of coming back down to being where you were, you go lower. And that's why there's a mental health epidemic right now, because cocaine is coming in so thick and fast on the shores of the UK, at least. People are going really high, and then they're going really down, and then the mental health is just going out the window, So if we are just chemicals, then all you would have to do is introduce a chemical into the body, then you would be fine. You'd be okay. But we're not okay because that's not real. And what we are looking for is reality. And no amount of chemicals and illusions will satisfy us until we come in contact with reality. So anyway, there's no point in worrying. So then, well, okay, how do we not worry? When I first used to do books, people would stop and say, well, what's the money for? Say it's to help people get free from stress and have a more peaceful mind. And they just laugh and say, show me a kid starving in Ethiopia and I'll give you a donation. None of this namby-pamby stress. But now I go around to businesses and shops, and they say, what is it about? And you say, well, all the money is going to go to help reduce stress. And you can hear a pin drop. Everyone in the office looks around. Did he say, get free from stress? What has he got? And they all come over, I'll take the beads. I'll have a Garanga sticker. I'll take that book. I'll take whatever you've got if it's going to free me from stress. And there's one big business magnate, and he wants me to speak to his staff in September. He's got this massive car showroom. I think he's got 2 actually, and 2 or 3 hotels. He wants me to sit down with the staff because he figures if I can get them to stop worrying, then they'll become more efficient. They'll work better. In fact, the cook got taken out about a month ago, Sebastian, on a stretcher because he does a 15-hour day and he starts the day by vomiting because he's in so much stress. And anyway, he's packed the job in now because it would have just killed him. But his boss rang up. He says, can you speak to Seb? Otherwise, I think we're going to lose him one way or the other. So I went over. Actually, I was there at the time. So I spoke to Seb and he said he had an epiphany because he's never believed in God. And I was telling him a few things and he said he had an epiphany. He suddenly realized there was God. And so I left him with a Garanga sticker. And asked him to do some meditation. So his meditation is Gauranga, Gauranga. He doesn't do a set amount. He just does it 10 minutes, morning, afternoon, and evening. And then next week I spoke to him. He said, I've been working for 50 years, and this last week was the best week I've had in the last 50 years. And he's devised a technique as well. When people are annoying him, you know what a psychic vampire is, right? Psychic vampire, they just latch on and they suck everything out, So when they come up, in his mind, he's just going, Gauranga, Gauranga. So it's acting as a subtle shield that filters the negative energy so it can't get through. So it's a battle out there, and every day so many thousands are committing suicide. It's such an antithetical situation to find yourself in. We spend most of our time Karuna Bhavan trying to get rid of weeds, and the weed is so determined to stay alive. You'll find it growing on the tip of a corner of a brick that's been exposed to gale force wind and sub-zero temperature. It's managing to squeeze and still. And then the human beings are just jumping off the buildings, I can't take any more. So that's so against what we are by nature, is that we struggle to exist, to survive, And once we understand that there is something there is something, that this Krishna consciousness is real, then we struggle all the more. Once we realize it's actually real, then we'll give everything to pursue it, to achieve it, because it takes tremendous determination to go back, and the illusory energy is working against us. It's the same determination it takes to go up the escalator during rush hour the wrong way, trying to go back to Godhead in Kali Yuga. You've got to be really determined. If you're going up the escalator and you think, I'm a bit mental today, you're just going to get, I don't think I can do it. I've got a hole in my shoe. I didn't get breakfast this month. That the work was really rude to me. You just get swept away. You've got to be really determined. Dig your heels in. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada, when he was writing his letters, he would say he was at a particular camp, say I'm at this camp. So to him, it was like a military expedition, practicing Krishna consciousness. So in one sense, it's like being in the army. And being in Scotland is like being in the boot camp. Um, so we're getting toughened up so we can become resilient, so that when the final moment comes, we're ready for it, which is a lot better than going down the river backwards in a canoe watching the TV. We should be getting ready for the waterfall, not distracting ourselves from it. Any questions or comments?
Krishna. Thanks very much, Prabhu. I remember you saying some other point about the reason we feel scared when we're doing devotional service is because we don't feel insignificant enough.
Oh, yeah.
Could you perhaps elaborate on that?
Yeah. Well, fear is directly proportionate to how much attachment you have. The more attached you are, if you give a kid a toy and he likes the toy and he falls in love with the toy, and then you pull the toy off the kid, then the kid gets really upset. If the kid doesn't really like the toy anyway and you pull it off him, he's like, it was a useless toy anyway. But when you're attached to something, then it creates fear. So the most subtle and all-pervading attachment is the ego, is the sense of who I am. There's I, me, and mine. I is the body. Mine is what belongs to the body. And me is my Facebook profile. And that's why if you put something on, like a really fun, and you say, that's not me. Because you've got your idea, you say what flavor you are, I'm this type of devotee, I'm like a really fired up brahmachari devotee. You can catch me in one of those. I'm like really full on, So that's the me. There's the I, me, and the mine. So this attachment to you being significant in some way, when you're on Sankirtan or performing something where there's some surrender involved, you're having to give up that sense of self-importance. Whereas if you're nothing, if you're insignificant, then what's there to be afraid of? There's nothing. You can't get knocked down any further than lower than the straw in the street. You've got nothing to lose. You're nothing anyway, You just, well, that's fair enough. Something really embarrassing happens. They say that if you're walking down the street and your trousers fell down, then at the time it would be like a big problem for you, right? Be so embarrassed. But a year later, you're with all your mates at the Sankirtan festival, and you say, yeah, you know what happened to me? I was in Crawley, and there was this terrible wind. And the next minute, my trousers fell. Everyone's laughing, and you're laughing as well. But at the time, it's a big problem. So rather than wait a year to laugh, you could just laugh when your trousers fall down there and then. But to do that, you have to have no false ego, no sense of self-importance, no false prestige. And then it's like, yeah, I'm an idiot. What do you expect? So if you feel insignificant, then there's nothing that can really, if you're 10,000 the size of a tip of hair, there's nothing that can harm you in the material world. That's the price you pay for false ego. So much worry and anxiety, trying to maintain the profile. Any other questions or comments?
Sort of following on, what about the faith we have in the order of the spiritual master? Like, if we properly believe that, okay, Prabhupada, our spiritual master, said do this, therefore if we actually do it with sincerity, would that also get us free from fear?
Well, the first instruction of the spiritual master is that you're insignificant. It's the first thing he teaches you. He takes away all your false pride. There's one pastime with Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, and he'd been doing really well in the libraries. And Prabhupada was really, really pleased with him. But then he came in the next day, and he just cut him down, really chastised him heavily. And then Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. Because if he doesn't feel so the best thing is to voluntarily give it up in the first place. Just try and be a humble servant. But it's a sneaky thing, the way it comes in, false ego and pride. Who does he think he is? You know, I've been in the movement for half an hour longer than him. Who does he think he is? Well, who do you think you are? Any other questions or comments? Yes? Welcome.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. And also following that example about your trousers fall. So how do you not get into the mood also of because I can imagine myself. Let's say I'm on Sankirtan and my trousers fall, and my mentor, my spiritual master is there, and I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm just a fool. And it might be the case that they'll be, like you've got to get yourself together. Where is your trousers falling, and what do you love about it? Like, what do you know what I mean? Like, how do you not get into the mood of like, well, I'm just a fool, so it doesn't matter what happens to me, and I can just walk around without my trousers on. This kind of mood where you actually, I don't know how to explain it, but you don't make an effort to be present yourself nicely, and like a misunderstanding of being a fool, basically.
Yeah, then one time Srila Prabhupada was taking Charnamrita, and he said, who has put salt? And the Mataji that made the Charnamrita, she said, she kind of giggled and said, Srila Prabhupada, it must be Krishna's mercy. And he said, no, it is not Krishna's mercy. It is your foolishness. So you could, there could be, you could deviate from, you could be using your lack of ability and qualification as an excuse to not try hard, to not try to improve, But the problem is with the false ego is when the false ego gets smashed, that's when we become discouraged and we leave devotional service, we go away because we think, oh, so the process is that I'm going to have to be made really humble and really insignificant, and I don't want to be in that situation, so let me leave now before it gets really embarrassing, So there's humility and there's humiliation. Sometimes humility comes about by being humiliated. But when you are feeling humiliated, how do you react to that? That's the real thing. Is what do you do then? Do you decide that that's going to be an impetus for you now to become a better, wear a good pair of braces so they never come down again? Or are you just going to carry on being stupid and doing the same thing again, They said that with Srila Prabhupada, he could tolerate somebody doing something wrong, but when he did it wrong after 3 times, then he got really angry because everyone makes mistakes, But then if you use your imperfection as an excuse for not surrendering, then it becomes, in fact, Srila Bhakti Chintamani Shiva Ramanuja says it can even become the 7th offense, that your devotional service is casual and you don't try to improve it. So then you're being sloppy on the strength of doing devotional service, and because I'm doing devotional service, everything will be fine, So then you can become like a Hindu, that you just, everything's okay, Oh yes, I'm believing everything, but then we're not really trying to improve or do anything. We know Krishna's God. Well, we accept it. We don't really know it. We kind of accept it, and we follow all the rituals, but we're not really that concerned. So yeah, when things go wrong, and it's embarrassing for us, and we learn, okay, I won't make that mistake again. And we don't become discouraged, we don't become overwhelmed with negativity. We just see that this is an opportunity now to push forward and safeguard against this happening again. Yeah. And you learn that fast on Sankirtan, because sometimes the person's thinking of taking the book, and sometimes you have to fill the gaps in with a bit of chit-chat, so the person's like this, and he's got his hand in his pocket, and he's thinking, and it's a little bit of an internal dialogue going on with the super soul. He's weighing it up, And there was one devotee, he was a little bit nervous. He was a big guy, and there was this pregnant silence, so he said, I better say something to just fill in the gap. So he blew his conch. So he said, when was the last time you had a bath? And the guy went, and then he didn't take the book. So he learned from that you definitely don't say that. The best thing is, where are you from anyway? Something anyway, something kind of neutral, It's important when you're doing Sankirtan that you have some chit-chat as well, so you can fill in the gaps, and then it can go quite smoothly. But if there's every time there's a pregnant silence, it's like having a balloon, and with the silence, the balloon's like, and the longer it is, the more you start getting on the mental platform. Who is he anyway? Is he authorized to be here? What is it actually going? That's all the questions start coming in. You have to keep it tight, no gaps. Any other questions or comments, please? Any of the ladies? Question about death? Ever worried about death? You okay with death? I'm okay with death. If death's okay with me.
Like, you actually have a father, 85. He's 85 and very, very ill, so full of cancer. And he's not believing in God because, like many, many old people, he had some really bad experiences with the church, especially with priests when he was a little boy. So there was a form of abusement, something. And that totally took away his faith. So he cannot distinguish between what people do and the religion itself, so the teaching. So he mixed it, and that's why he's just. However, he became a non-believer, but he was always a very, very good man, good heart, cared for family. And then I was thinking, I cannot try to show him or teach him that there is God, and then I was thinking maybe he needs this walking away. It's almost like a healing, or sometimes walking away is also a healing process to be able to go back. And that somehow, I don't know, stimulated in me the thought, maybe there are people out there, they are having a good heart, but they cannot right now believe in God, but there will be a time again for them.
And that's your father? It's your father?
This is my father.
Your father. So your father doesn't have anything to worry about because you're a devotee. But the real way that we can help them is not directly. Especially, it's difficult for fathers to take it from the children anyway. So I learned that one fast when I was trying to preach to my parents, because I'm just little Tony to them, you see. And little Tony, we were changing his nappy the other week. He's trying to tell me what life's about, so it's not going to get far. Well, with little Tony, he started trying to be a really, really nice son and really loving son. And although they didn't directly believe in God themselves at the time, they started thinking, well, whatever it is that he's into, it's making him a better person. And then they did come round. So your father may not come round that far, but if he feels the love of his daughter and the concern of his daughter for him, then that will soften his heart toward you. And because you're a devotee, then indirectly he's softening his heart toward Krishna. If he remembers you at the time of death, then because you're Krishna's devotee, then also he remembers Krishna indirectly. And then if you go back to Godhead this lifetime, then your father and so many generations before and after you will also be going back with you, you know. So the best thing you can do, it's like being say you're a surgeon and your father comes in and then you've got to cut him open and cut the cancer out. You've got to forget he's your father and dismiss all the sentimentality and just do the operation. And then you're cured, you know. So in the same way, when you become very, which I'm sure you are already, very strong in your devotional practices, and all the more determined now because your father's destiny is resting on your shoulders, you know. And if you give up devotional service and go adrift, then that won't help him at all. It's interesting. Before I knew anything about Krishna consciousness, when I was 16, I lost my. It was the first time I'd done something consciously, sinfully. When I did it, I had this really strong feeling that all my forefathers, I didn't even know who my forefathers were, but I had this feeling that they were all like, oh, you've really let the side down now, that's really bad, you know what you're doing. So it was kind of subconsciously in there, there's an awareness in there, the Pitris are watching over. And when one soul takes up devotional service very, very strongly and pleases Krishna, gets noticed by Krishna, receives his loving glance and goes back, then that's like very, very significant to all the generations that are related to this. You know? And so with your father, when he does pass away, you can decide to chant extra rounds or read a chapter of the Bhagavatam or fast, do a Kadashi for him, you know, then you'll feel that you've really, really helped him wherever he is, you know. And exactly how Krishna makes himself known to people that are atheists. There was one soldier. Oh yeah, there was a devotee. He was distributing books, and a soldier had been shot. And this boy had never believed in God. And all the people were crowded around, and he'd been shot in the chest. He was bleeding quickly to death. All the people were crowding around, but they couldn't do anything. And then this one devotee pushed his head in, and he looked at the soldier, and the soldier said, "Who are you?" And he said, "Krishna." The soldier, Krishna. So he was in for a big surprise. Because that's totally like, there's no offense, it's the pure name. You leave with the pure name on your lips. And you've made it. So it can seem hopeless from our side. How can we really help anybody? But internally, we can do a lot.
Thank you.
It doesn't have to be such a sad subject, actually. Death is because nobody. What's sad about death is people are resigning themselves to not knowing what it is and never being able to understand what it is. It's just one of those puzzles of life that you can never work out. So we have to just accept that. Now that's sad. That's very sad and depressing. And the reason why it's sad and depressing is because it's not true. If it was true, then it would be fine. You could just accept it. But it's not true. That's why it's sad. Because somehow inside you know that you're missing an opportunity, you know. Kartikeya, you've got about 120 seconds.
Hare Krishna.
Hare.
So you said that if her father thinks about her at the time of his death, that means he is indirectly thinking about Krishna.
Yeah.
So is it true that at the time of death, not only if you think about God, but if you think about his devotees as well, you go to his abode? Sorry.
Yeah, you, in that pastime we were just hearing there, Srila Prabhupada, he had the devotees so attached to him that they were crying. You know, they thought he was going to be going on the bullock cart, which would be the end of him. And so this is the spiritual master's job, is to, because we can't see Krishna, so it's very hard to love Krishna. But we can see Krishna's devotee. And if we can love Krishna's pure devotee, then that pleases Krishna even more than loving him. Because he is Tadiya. Tadiya is that which is dear to the Lord. Things that are connected to the Lord. If you're attached to them, that's more pleasing to the Lord than being attached directly to him. Be attached. Those who say they're my devotees are not my devotees, but those who say they are the devotees of my devotees are my devotees. So they're the real devotees. Jai, it's Guru Vrinda ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. Gaura Premanandi Haribol.
His Grace Adhoksaja Krishna Prabhu ki.
All of you.